Duane, I've had this observation that those who have any sort of awareness of things of the beyond are very slight of physical means. Should it not be normal for these people who have mastered life to be, let's say, materially sufficient in their earthly lives here? And it would seem to me that let me say, having any kind of material thing in abundance is some sort of evil, or else these elevated ones who have sought to become aware, or spiritual or anything, they will have this kind of abundance in their lives. So I thought Duane has some unique views about being materially provided here. And I don't know whether this is something, whether the pursuit of material in itself is self-limiting. Does it is it an impediment to becoming more aware? So then,
yes, Charles, I understand. Again, it's the old ideas. And it's a choice. It's whatever comes first, whatever is first in your life. Some people have families and a job, and they have to do that. It's understandable. But they decide how to work through that. So it's like anything. So let's say you have that already. You've come into this life. You've decided that because you've been brought up through all of this. And I, too, came through all of this. We all come through it. Each lifetime we start anew. And we come through this because it creates what we're really doing is collecting a reference for ourselves to eventually recognize the true reality. But at some point, we decide when we're going to do that. We really have to decide. So, in the meantime, we're doing this. We're thinking that, we need to do this. We need to do this to survive because that's what we see. So that comes first. But at a certain point, when you get a certain amount of knowledge or information, or you're shown things by the real guides or whatever, life itself, you're always making the decision. Life is always prompting you, showing you more, and you decide from there. So it's what comes first in your life. You decide. So I've decided to set up my life just like this. And it's not about having or have-nots. It's not about that. Everything here can be utilized. That's how I see it. I got so much stuff in my room as I'm looking at it here, and in a way, I don't want it. I want to live in the natural environment. I saw a little video yesterday on YouTube. It was this kid. It's probably in Africa. We'll just say it's in Africa. Maybe it's in Indonesia or wherever. I don't know. But he was probably about 12, 14 years old. He dug this hole, taller than himself, in the ground somewhere out there in the wild, and finally hit water, and then went to had all these bamboo parts and whatever. I sent it to Val, and sent it to Ava, and it was so cool watching this kid put this together and eventually made this well, this natural well, and he put grass around the outsides and everything like that, etc., and watered it, and then had the crank to where he lowered it and he retrieved the water. And so many people would think, well, gee, that's so primitive or whatever. I don't see it as that way. I would actually like to live like that myself, like the birds, etc. But in the meantime, I see that as long as I'm in society And for this time and how I'm relating to society, I will accumulate what I need to do this. Okay, that's what it's for. That comes first. It's whatever I need to relate to the rest of the world. But eventually, I'm making the decision. Now, again, backing up in the beginning here, I said, you've come into this life. You have this lifestyle. Most people will see, they raise children, they see their family, they're looking at the future. See, you're always projecting. Most people are always projecting future view, which is understandable in the personal self, the human consciousness here. It's understandable. So what you're seeing is you're seeing your children growing up, you're seeing them going to college, etc. And you don't see a whole lot past that. Maybe you see them married and having their own kids. You kind of keep it in that framework there. You don't see them when they're like 80 or 90 and they're on medication and they're on their deathbed, or so to speak, and all that. You don't see that part. You pretend that that's not there, you see. But what people don't see is that as they keep projecting these cute little ideas, only, and that comes first, they're pushing themselves, they're pulling themselves and pushing themselves into future lifetimes because they're on the time track. So, the material aspects, because of the spiritual path, well, in the beginning, it's kind of like going through boot camp. You've come from living with your mother, then all of a sudden you join the military and you get off the bus and the sergeant immediately starts yelling at you. Well, by the time you went through boot camp, you have a whole new view that you're sharing. It's not very long, 12, 13, 14 weeks, whatever. You got a whole new view there, etc. And so, and the same with these ideas that have always been brought along with the spiritual path. The idea has been to push these things away, to not be involved in certain things because it has nothing to do with the so-called spiritual life or whatever. Well, again, the spiritual idea and the religious things and everything we've been through, this is the babysitting days. Now we're into the reality of facing everything every single moment that supersedes that. See, this is where these things, that's why the corporation and all these things are where they are. They're just physical astral is all they are. That's as far as they go. And when you go into the astral worlds, you're not going to find the corporation building there. You're not going to find the White House there. It don't exist there. You're going to find other structures, whatever is being built there, but it's going to be whatever. And so the thing is that, with what is taking place here, again, we have a lot of these old ideas. And even in the business world, I try to relate to people. It's like, the things that you did before, that's why you're here now, because you know what? Those things didn't work. That's why you're here now. And people are thinking that, okay, well, I'm on my journey, and okay, so now Duane has created something, and well, this is going to be part of my journey. Well, no, basically, everything that you went through before demonstrates to you what didn't work, okay, what is not real. And now it's time to recognize what is real. That becomes the difference. Many people just think they're adding to it, and their personal life still comes first. Yes, you do what you do, but now you gear it around to where this personal life, it's more focused on a bigger view. Okay, but you decide that for yourself. Each person must decide that. And this is where many times that, Paul went through it too. And he said, he made the statement, this is not a spiritual welfare program. In other words, what he was saying is that do not look to me for your sustenance. Okay, he's saying, I provide the writing, I provide the knowledge for you to do better for yourself. This is what I'm doing too. I'm not here to do magic tricks, okay, and to get people better jobs or whatever. That's going to come along accordingly. And if there's a struggle to be had or whatever, well, that's just how it is. And sometimes you go to jail or you get in trouble and you do all these funny things. Whatever it is, again, you figure it out. And it's very important that you do figure it out. And so again, we've talked about in the past where like the Africans compared themselves to the United States. No, there is no such thing as that because the whole planet is the same. It simply appears differently. It's like the clothes people wear. One person is wearing shorts and another's wearing dress and whatever. It's all the same thing. It just appears differently. And this is getting this across to people, then they'll do better. But until they, you might say, let go of those old agreements, these old attitudes, having money or not, realistically, I will say this, you decide what comes first. And guess what? You can pretend, oh, I'm with the new presentation or I'm with this or that. But, you demonstrate, life already knows. And you've made the choice. It's not about good or bad. And I see people, especially on Facebook, etc. They like to do all their selfies and stuff like that and show what they have. Well, that's great. That's fun. I would rather show pictures of Rebazar or something like that, share this with the world, or say certain things that reference the all is. I would rather do that. I don't do selfies. Ava and I show ourselves, but again, we show ourselves on the real side, not from here. It's not about the personal self. We're doing our part, but it's really referencing the real side. And people get upset with this too. It's like, well, why don't you show yourselves? Well, what is that? Okay, we're referencing the real side, and the isness life is. Well, again, people make the choice. Is their personal life more important? You made the choice. It's not good or bad. It's just a choice. And again, life knows. Life knows the choice you made. You can't cover that up. It's your decision. This is where you really get real with yourself. So, again, those are old cliches. The idea of to have material possessions or not have them. Again, I don't see it as a something that's hard to figure out. It's just you just do and get what you need, and that's it, because they're material things. But I'm not chasing these things. This isn't my idea. We ask for donations and whatever. We take that and we recirculate it. We're just using the system. See, we're using the system. We've helped create the system. We have a right to use the system with whatever it is. And it gets into a lot more than that to wake up with. But I don't focus on any of those things. You'll notice that I don't talk about those things really. Because again, it's not to have or have not. And this is what is many times specified too. And especially religion specifies this. The funny thing is, and this has always been specified in religion. It's like, do you need all this, or to be a greedy man, or, lust after this or that? And yet they've gotten people to the point where, hey, they give it all to the church and the controllers. And like the Vatican, whatever, everything's gold in there, etc. Everybody has taken their labor and worked and given it all away to them. And then they're sitting there starving and struggling, and they don't care. This is their psychological game with these so-called spiritual religious ideas, is to get everything in every which way they can from the individual and keep them unaware into future lifetimes. So again, but again, you decide what comes first in your life. But the material aspects, like anything else, like everything we've talked about today, you decide what comes first. And there's always a way, there's always an opportunity to bring it all around to where eventually you're just 100% standing in that reality and recognizing it. See, this is where you allow, you have to learn to allow this true reality to stand real with you also. You have to allow it. It's not about chasing it. It's how do you allow this reality to be so? And that's ongoing. That's just how it is, like the air we breathe. That's ongoing. And so we decide that, or we don't decide, and that's the best position. Eventually, you don't have to decide anything because it's an isness. You recognize what's taking place. So everything's fine, Charles. It always has been, it always will be. And again, it's going to suddenly be next Saturday, so you need some rest, Charles.